Hi, and welcome to episode 145 of the Heartland Knits podcast. My name is Vicki, but you can find me as Heartland Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. And today is Sunday, June 5th, 2016. I am just back, kind of within the hour, from the Zombie Knitpocalypse Retreat over in Rochester. I drove 4.5 hours home, so I'm a little windblown and tired, and you might be able to hear in my voice it's a little kind of raw. I made myself a cup of strawberry and vanilla tea, so I will sip on that. But I knew kind of if I didn't do this now, it wasn't going to get done. And I promised a couple of the retreat attendees that I would try to be a little more regular in my podcast episodes. So I will talk about the retreat more later, but first let's catch you up with what's been on my needles this week. And let's see, I have the main thing that I worked on at ZK, and that is my black or forest darkness. I just call it the black bows. But I knit on this as much as I could. And this is what it looks like. You can see the body has grown. I estimate kind of this is where my middle line for my steek is. And kind of from there to there, it's about just kind of over 2 inches. That's about what I knit. And I knit on this like pretty much. I knit on my sock a little bit when we went out to eat or something. And I took my spindle downstairs one night and worked on it. But I tried to knit this kind of without looking so that I could look around and kind of not strain my eyes. The lighting was pretty good in the ballroom, so but really not like as good as daylight. But it's coming along. When I was kind of holding it up to the light to see if I dropped any stitches because I was kind of doing it without looking, and found a couple places where the yarn was caught, but just kind of a strand, like I split a stitch. So I had a couple of sort of, dropping a stitch down and catching it and to get it all up. So I think I managed to fix all of those. So kind of this was my main knitting. And if there's anybody new watching, this is the Forest Darkness bows. This was a kit from Sweden, and I'm using size 1 needles, which are 2.25 millimeter, because my gauge is 9 1/4 stitches to the inch. So kind of that's the knitting part that I have for you. I said I knit on my kind of half of sock that I have left for the year, and that is over there in my purse, and I'm just not going to get up and show it to you. It will probably sit like it is right now till I go to knitting camp in July. So off the needles, I finished the shawl that I showed you last week. I finished it on Monday night, and I kind of blocked it, kind of stayed up late to block it Monday night so it could dry all day Tuesday. And this is the Kishy shawl by Denise Bell. And so this is, I'm trying to push myself back. This is the finished shawl. You can see it's a pretty big size. It's a triangle shape, and the yarn is Malabrigo lace. It was 2 skeins, and it came to about 900 yards. So I ended up with about 8 grams left. It's a really pretty. I'm gonna move my teacup. It's a really pretty shawl design, blocked out. I hope that stitch pattern, the kind of woven stitch pattern, is showing. and then there's this one, and then the edging was kind of a sideways edging, and you can see this sort of hex mesh honeycomb sort of look. It was a really fun shawl to knit. I used size 4 needles because I was worried about kind of going up in size, that I would run out of yarn because I was a little shy of yardage that was called for in the pattern. And I think it blocked out, you know, to a nice size, and the lace is open, but this is such a soft yarn. I mean, it's wonderfully soft when you wear it, but it's such a soft yarn. It's I can tell already it's not holding a block, and I took this along in case it was cold, and sometimes the ballroom would get, you know, a blast of cold air, and so it's nice and warm and really lightweight. This yarn is very, very lightweight, but I am very happy with the size of it and how it came out, and the instructions were very, very clear. I would recommend getting it. This comes from the Ultimatuli book by Denise Bell, and yeah, that one is finished. And this one I actually did put up on Ravelry. I didn't put the picture up. I took a picture and put it on Instagram, but I have to go back and, you know, upload it to Ravelry. But I did start a project page, which I have not done in years, just because this book is so new that I wanted to put that information about, like, kind of the yardage that I used up there in case it could help anybody else. So let's just kind of move on to show and tell. I did that little bit of spinning, but it doesn't really look different than it did last week. And I had a long drive home, so I, you know, kind of thought about what I wanted to tell you about ZK, and hopefully I won't forget anything. I'm feeling just like tired, and it's just kind of getting worse, and so, but let's try and get through it. At least I can, you know, tell you some things that happen. I don't really have much yarny things to show you because I actually avoided the market altogether. I told you I really wasn't expecting to buy a lot of yarn. I did on Saturday. The one thing I wanted to do, because Rochester is about an hour and a half away from Minneapolis, and Minneapolis has a Fluebog store, so I wanted to go up there to try on shoes, because I never kind of, I've wanted to for so long, and I always talk myself out of it because I get really nervous driving in downtown Minneapolis, and I was close enough. I just felt like I needed to do it, or I probably would never go back down there. So Saturday, which was the day of the market, instead of going to the market and spending money on yarn, I drove up to Minneapolis and went to Fluebog and spent money on shoes. They are, I will have to show them to you another time because they're kind of, you know, you'll see them another time. But it was, you know, I got down there, it rained a little bit, and I did kind of make one kind of round in the market. I walked in the door. I'd had breakfast with my roommate, and then, you know, we kind of went upstairs, and I was just standing talking to her while kind of waiting for the market to open, and then they opened the doors, and there were a lot of people in there, and so I kind of just walked in, and I saw Emily knitting butterflies, who was helping out in a booth, and she's, you know, and I just said, I'm not here. And I kind of walked out and went up, you know, and got my, you know, ready to kind of drive up to the city. So I didn't buy any yarn, but I do have a skein to show you because my roommate gave me some pretty yarn, and this is a new yarn by Quince & Co. called Phoebe, and it is 100% extra fine merino. It's really pretty, and it is just very, I don't know if it's hand dyed, but it is, got that look. It's just, you can see it's a little bit later in there, but it's this really pretty sort of light robin's egg blue, and it's super, super soft. It has 300 yards, or 301 yards, and it's a sport weight, I guess. And so I have that to play with. And then she gave me the cutest little project bag. I have one from her last year. I think she gave me like a bigger size, and it's just the absolute perfect color. Wait till you see. It matches all my pink perfectly. It's this little kind of square bottom little project bag, and it's got a little handle and a great big bow that you tie it up with. I want to use this just for like a little purse on my wrist. But the inside is satin, and it's got a little pocket, and I have the tag of who it's from. I will try to put it on the bottom there so that I think she's on Etsy, but it's really beautifully sewn, and it's just as cute as can be. So she gave me a few other things, but they're still packed in my luggage. So, but these were kind of, put in my knitting bag. So, but so I do have a little bit of yarn. We got a goodie bag, which I don't have to show you either, because we had yarn in that bag. Well, first of all, the bags were all sewn by the Anne, who is Amy's mom, who has the Silver Shed bags on Etsy, and she sewed, it's unbelievable, she sewed 200 identical project bags. It was just mind-boggling to me that, to sew that many, like production line practically of, but like the same ones, same lining and same outside. It had sort of a rainbow, stitch, kind of how you might have seen some of hers. They're kind of a reproduction of knitted fabric. And this was sort of rainbow, because the rainbow came from the yarn that was included in them were all mini skeins from, I don't know if it was 7 or 8 of the vendors who, yarn vendors at the market. They each kind of had a color, and then they had mini skeins. I guess they, most of them were all skeined up by Megan and Amy and a crew of volunteers that they recruited. But I don't have that to show you. I don't have anything of my goodie bag to show you because I am not much of a mini skein knitter. I don't have any sort of those projects that so many people do, the mitered square blankets, or the, all the hexapuffs, and, all of those kind of little projects. I don't have any of those. So, even though individually they were really pretty, I decided I wanted to kind of give mine away to somebody that would really appreciate them. They'd had a lot of those products going. And then it ended up, so immediately, like when I, that was in the bag, I thought, well, I'm going to find somebody to give that away to. And then I ended up, somebody had to cancel at really short notice. And, that's happened to me in the past. And it's just feels like heartbreaking. It's just, so disappointing. So I thought I would kind of just send along my whole goodie bag, just because she might really, it might make her feel better that it would, it's not the same as kind of hanging out and having, seeing everybody and stuff. But when I had to miss something, I had to like cancel on like a Monday, and I was supposed to leave on Thursday. And, friends of mine sent things to me and I got them the next week, and it made me feel so much better. So I sent that off. I sent it off right from Rochester. So that I don't have to show you. And I also don't have to show you a door prize. They had every night there was a door prize drawing, that they would, kind of hold up whatever it was, if it was yarn or a bag or whatever, and then, pull names out of a hat or a bag, and that's what you won. And so last night they called my name and I won a skein of yarn from the Lemonade Shop, which I had never had a skein of their yarn. I really wasn't, really familiar with them. It was not particularly my colors. I kind of intended when I got it, I thought, well, maybe I'll just use that for a podcast prize and give it to one of you. And then my roommate, her door prize, when her name got called, was sort of an identical cup to what was in the goodie bag. They had a kind of a insulated sort of Tervis like, but it wasn't Tervis brand, but that kind of an insulated glass. And they had extras that they used for door prizes, and that's what she won. And she already had one that they had kind of the retreat kind of logo kind of on them, and she already had one. So I felt bad that she didn't win like kind of a yarny prize. So she liked my yarn, so I ended up giving that to her. So sorry, no yarn for you. So that was sort of what I bought, except for, I'm sure you've heard other podcasters, Megan and Amy talk about it, and I've talked about it in the past. There's this fabric store called Ginny's, and it was just down in the next block from the DoubleTree, the hotel where the retreat was held. And that was sort of one of the things I really wanted to do, and I ended up hanging out there quite a bit. I made several trips every day. So I hung out at Ginny's a bit. Thursday was this beautiful, beautiful day, and they have this kind of festival right, where the hotel is, right downtown in Rochester, where they have food vendors and, other kind of vendors, potters and jewelry, people kind of like art fairish, but then, some other, kind of direct sales, more, sort of vendors. And it was a beautiful day. And so we walked around there quite a bit, and we had, ate outside, and it was beautiful. And on the way back, we stopped at Ginny's, which is just down in the next block. And that was one of the things I wanted to do, was spend a lot of time there, because I had made, my dress. And if I got a dress to fit, I thought then I can kind of buy some, maybe a little bit better material. They have beautiful, beautiful fabric in the store. And it's, so anyway, I looked, and my fabric is still packed, so you will see it. I will show you kind of when I start to sew it. But on Thursday, I bought this really pretty sort of teal, kind of bluish teal eyelet fabric that has kind of like a flower pattern in it. It's really, really pretty. So I bought that, and I was really, really just, I fell in love with some other fabric, but I sort of restrained myself. And then Friday, I went over there because I wanted to buy buttons for the bows. So let me show you. These are sort of the colors. And I took my sweater with me, and Ginny was there, and I kind of showed it to her, and she said, I asked her if she had kind of black mother of pearl, because that's the traditional, what they used for this, the black bohus. And she said, no, but I have these. And she pulled these out. And I don't know if it's going to show. It's like an abalone, sort of. But it's, got these like same sort of, teals and blues there. You can sort of see. They're like a perfect match. And they all the buttons are in these kind of little containers, like little drawers, and you could take out the whole little drawer. And there were kind of several sizes, and I wanted to get kind of this smallest size. And so there were a couple friends with me, and I was just like pulling out the smallest size, and they were kind of going through and like, because each one, it's like a shell, so each one is a little bit different. And they were sort of going through and looking at them, and I knew how many I wanted, and they kind of had them arranged like, they thought these all sort of matched, and they all like went well, and I didn't even kind of go through them again. I just took their word for it, and so I have buttons for the bows, which is really good. But then later on in the afternoon, I went back because another friend kind of wanted to go over there, and I just found it really inspiring. And so I went over and I was showing her this fabric that I kind of fell for on a Thursday. It was a Liberty of London fabric, which, it's kind of spendy. It was so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's kind of white with these little pink feathers, and then there's like a little silver sort of like the quill of the feather. Really, really pretty. And she kind of fell in love with it too. But, she found some other things that she bought, and so the more I was in there, the more in love with this fabric I was. It's so pretty. And so we sort of dragged each other kind of out of the store. We both loved it, but I kept thinking will I be able to, do it justice, sort of. And so by the time we got back to the DoubleTree, which was sort of half a block and across the street, like I knew in my head that I could not go home without that fabric. So, we kind of, but, just thought, well, I just need to like really sit and think about it for a minute. And we went back in the ballroom, and then somebody told her that there was a coupon in, like, if you told the store owner that you'd seen this ad, you could get 20% off, like 20% off on Liberty of London. So she came and told me, and I'm like, and I was still like sort of trying to restrain myself, and it took about 2 minutes, and I jumped out of my chair and went and found her. I'm like, I'm going now. And so she came along. So the both of us came back, and it was pouring down rain by this time. But they have skyways all throughout Rochester. So we found our way through the skyway and kind of came in. The store was empty when we opened the door, and it was like the two of us like coming back in, and Ginny and the other ladies who were working there just burst out laughing, like almost like they had a bet, like how long will it take them to come back. So they were so sweet, and I didn't know exactly how much fabric I needed, because I knew how much it took for that pink dress that I made, because that was like 45 inches wide, and this was like a different one. And so I just sort of like told them how much of that I needed, and kind of let them figure it. And so she measured off that much, and then put a little clip there. And then she asked, Deb, how much do you need? And she, measured off the rest, and that was going to be enough for what she wanted. So we both got, and we finished off the entire bolt, and we both got the fabric. And I was just like, after that, I was just giddy. I was so happy. I know if I had bought it and driven, home, I would have been so disappointed in myself. So then by the next morning, overnight, I thought about it, and really, I mean, even without the discount made it like really, worth it was sort of the same cost as like a dress like that I bought, that I would, but I get to make the thing. But I thought about like I knit these bohos, and if I had gone to the market, I would have undoubtedly bought a sweater's worth of yarn, and that would have cost as much as the fabric, probably more than the fabric, and I would have bought that, kind of without a second thought, just because it's like a sweater and it takes a while to make. So I know, my sewing it will take a while, and I will probably, practice a few more dresses before I do cut into that, but I've totally rationalized it by now. So that's everything that I bought. Otherwise it was, I had a really good time. It was great to see my roommate again. I haven't seen her for like a whole year. She was my roommate last year. And it was great to sort of connect with a few other people. One of the things I wanted to do, the first night I went out to dinner with a couple people that I usually sort of see when I come, and then everything goes so quickly, and then you're like saying goodbye the last night, and I think I never got out, we never got to go out to eat or anything. And so kind of before I went, I contacted them and said, let's go out for dinner. And so the very first night, on Wednesday night, I said, let's do it tonight, because if you don't do it right away, just things come up and it just doesn't happen. So that was great. So I got to, and then, we got to have dinner, and then they were sitting at a table and they invited, a couple people along. So I got to meet, some new people that I'd never met before. That was Wednesday night. And then Thursday night, if you remember, they have a wine and canvas kind of place just down the block from the hotel. And I had such a good time doing the painting. So I really wanted to do that again. And so Thursday night, I went down with a group of people, and it was so much fun. At first I wasn't really like thrilled with sort of the picture that they were doing that night, but it turned out I really enjoyed it, and it was so much, it's always so much fun to see how different everybody's turns out. And we took a picture kind of all of us so that you can see sort of how different it turned out. This year it seemed easier for me. I'm happier with it. There were no eyedroppers involved, like last year where you had to use eyedropper to make little flowers. There was none of that. So that was better. And I actually brought the picture home, and I'm going to show it to you. So this is my picture. It's like so not artistic, but this is how it turned out. It is meant to be the Rochester skyline, and this is the Plummer building here. And then we did sort of all of these colors in this water to be the reflection kind of at first, and then at the end we did the trees. And she said that the picture we were kind of following was sort of fall colors, and so that's got, the water has all these oranges and reds and whatnot. And she said, you can make green trees or like pink trees, like cherry, blossoms. And I thought, I am making cherry blossoms. So I wish I had pink in the water for reflections, but I brought it home. I'm not going to be hanging this on a wall anywhere, but that kind of is the point. It was just like fun to do, and the experience of doing it was just really fun. So that's what I did on Thursday night. Thursday during the day, I had signed up to take a class. It's a photography class with Emily from Knitting Butterflies, and I heard really great things about it. That was the day of that festival, and it was just so beautiful and nice. And then we went to Ginny's, and just time got away, and So I, looked at my watch and it was kind of after the start time of the class, and I thought, oh, I don't want to interrupt things and like try to go in after, like in the middle and stuff. So, but I heard really, really good things about it from, other people that had taken it. So I missed that. Friday night, I went out to dinner with Ellen, who Twin Set Ellen from the Twin Set Designs podcast, and her friend Lisa, who has kind of been a guest kind of host on the podcast, and then Melissa from the Meltry Design podcast, and my roommate who doesn't have a podcast. But we had a really good time. That's like part of it is it's it's so loud and there's so many people kind of in the ballroom, and it's just really like noisy, which is why I knew if I didn't do this today, I am going to, just need several days of just silence to sort of recover and regain some energy. Um, but that's why it was nice to kind of go out for dinner with like a little smaller group, and you really got to talk to people, and that was a really, really fun night, and we laughed. And then Saturday night, I had gone up to a flubog, and we went out for dinner with a group of people that I know from Madison, and they always make me laugh. We went to like at it's called the Tap House, which is kind of like a bar, and the food was so good. It was so unhealthy and bad for you, but it was so good. So, you only live once. So it was a really, really fun time, a really fun night. And then, so it was nice. I wish it was like a smaller group of people, because there are so many people that I never talked to at all, or, anyway, so it's just hard. And it's loud, and I get like really tired. I'm not used to a lot of people around. So it's hard. Even driving home, I could just feel sort of my, like I need to recover. So that's why my voice is so like raw. Well, I'm a little dehydrated just from driving, and kind of driving 2 days in a row, because I drove up to Minneapolis yesterday, and so all in all, it was a lovely time. I'm glad I went. I haven't been, kind of for a long time. I haven't gone anywhere or done anything like that. So it was very fun to catch up with people and see people, and um, I don't know. So and it was also great to kind of get a little bit of feedback on the podcast. I'll admit, I know the podcasts have not been real regular kind of this spring, and it was hard to get myself up to do one. I was, feeling like nobody's watching it anyway. What difference will it make? And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, I'll get to 150 whenever that happens, and that'll be my last show. So I don't know. I got, a lot of good feedback, and people, said they really liked it. And I guess I was, looking at like numbers, there were, like I was getting, like so few like views on YouTube compared to subscribe, people who have subscribed and stuff. So it's just, but with kind of, hearing that people actually do watch it and really enjoy it, it makes me kind of more enthused about doing it, which is why I sat down today when I'm tired to, um, get kind of hopefully get one out, and hopefully to be a little more regular. Um, I'm hoping at some point during the summer to do one outside, kind of hopefully if the roses, bloom, that, they can be in the background. Last Tuesday, before I left for the retreat, was kind of a chaotic day, because, the fence, the neighbor's fence that fell down in pieces last summer, um, And that's why in that video that I took last week, I kind of went from the back because it looked so horrible from the front. You know, looking kind of into their yard and the weeds. That but on Tuesday they came to put it back up, and I was all stressed out about it because they kept wanting to like walk in the garden, and it's all done. I got home and it looks so much better with the fence up. So even though it's not a perfect job that they did, it's better than it was. So I hope to do, you know, kind of record out there at least once during the summer, and you know, maybe make a few other kind of little changes. So stay tuned for those. But I think this is about all that I can handle. I hope you all have a really good week, and I will try to remember to keep out the things that I talked about. I you know, bought several dresses worth of material, and I have some that I have from before, so I am going to kind of try to start sewing maybe a little bit every day and get some of those dresses done because they're all basically summer dresses. So I don't know that I'll get them all done this summer, but hopefully get a few. Anyway, I hope you all have a really great week, and until I see you next week, from my heart to yours, happy knitting.